Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Radium and today I've got a very unique video for you, where today I'm going to be going through every single regular summon in all of Terraria 1.4. Now this is a very hard list to gauge because there are loads of summon weapons. So I've come to the rule that first of all I'm not going to be doing Old One's army weapons in this video, as I intend on doing it in another video. And secondly, I'm using a very good loadout. Not quite the best because I don't want to use the Stardust Sentry, but it's still an incredibly good loadout with late game gear, just so I can give like the best opinion on these kind of weapons. So it's very strong, and I'm gonna pair these with the Kaleidoscope. I'm not gonna use this, but when a weapon's not strong enough to do the job on their own, I'll use this to finish the boss off, which is going to be Master Mode King Slime for this video. I don't really know how this is going to go, but I feel like it could be a very fun list to make. There's a lot of diversity in the Summoner class, so I'm just going to get into it, honestly. Alright, starting off we have the Finch Staff. Now, I'm pretty sure most of you know what this thing is. It's not particularly strong, but with the right buffs, it's actually quite powerful. 18 summon damage for this. I know it will do nowhere near that kind of damage in any other situation, but if we're fighting like a boss like King Slime, they actually do damage with this kind of loadout. And because they're a summon, they obviously, when they charge, they potentially have infinite pierce, which can be useful. It's not ideal because they are quite weak, but, you know, it does get the job done, and it's a very nice summon to have very early on. You don't normally get it because it is quite rare, but if you're playing Journey, then you always get it in your first loadout. And it's a very nice way to start off a Journey Mode Summoner playthrough, as well as a Master Mode one if you're lucky enough to get it. Alright, next up guys, we have the Hornet Staff. Now I know this isn't the practical order in terms of the weapons, but I'm following it by the Terraria source items progression. It's a bit of a weird way of ranking it, but it works for me. Anyways, for this summon, I'm going to need to desummon the baby finches, of course. They're hornets, they shoot their own projectiles, and from past experiences they are, again, quite strong, I believe. Let's see how they do. I'll try not to intervene. You can see the DPS here. I'll probably disable everything else, just because we don't need it, but it's doing incredible DPS. Like, considering this is a summon you'd get extremely early on, and this is a difficult boss to fight, in all honesty. Yeah, this is a very good summon. It does have its downfalls, obviously, but overall very, very nice, very, very powerful. I'm not going to spend time contemplating every single boss and every single item all that long, just because that would genuinely take probably about an hour if I gave my in-depth opinion on everything. So this may seem a little bit rushed, but I am going to try and give this video the love it deserves. Alright guys, next up we have the Vampire Frog Staff. Now I've never seen this weapon before. It's interesting to say the least. It does 29 summon damage and they're a grounded summon. Seems like maybe they're a melee as well, which would be interesting. Let's see how it does. I'm not going to use the rod thing for this. Ooh, okay, this is not a good summon. The reason I say that is I think the frogs can only hit the boss a certain amount of times. There's immunity frames after their attacks. That or they're just really, really slow. I mean, considering this is from a Blood Moon, I'd expect this summon to be better. Because it's obviously a pain to get, so they should have made it slightly better than this, in my opinion. Let's try and clear out some of the slimes so it can focus the main one. Yeah, this is not a good summon at all. Despite how early you can get it, it's still not effective compared to what you'd have at the time, which is most likely like the Imp Staff, the Hornet Staff, those kind of tier items. Next up, we have ourselves the Slime Staff. Now, I'm sure most people know what this is. This is going to be very similar to the Vampire Frog, so I'm not going to give it an extremely long showcase. And it's been in the game for a long, long time, so it's these little summony dudes, it's these little baby slimes who jump on their enemies. They don't do a ton of damage, but you can get this weapon extremely early on if you're lucky, despite the horrible drop chance. Doesn't do all that much damage, honestly. It's not really a viable summon for anything, but it's still a cool vanity item to get. just because the one in like 7,000 or 8,000 drop chance it has. Nothing too special though, considering the Editions 1.4 mode. Okay, now we have the final standardized summon for 1.4's pre-hard mode, which is the Imp Staff. This is crafted from Hellstone bars, and I believe it's been revamped slightly, so I'm excited to see what it does now. Ooh, okay. Okay, it works slightly more like the Hornet Staff now. That's very nice. Because the staff used to be, well, the summon itself used to be very sluggish and didn't fire all that often. It seems much quicker and more responsive and reactive now. So that's a great change in my opinion. It also does enough damage to be considered a valid weapon. Like this I could see people doing for maybe even like an early mode Duke Fisher or maybe a mech boss. And yeah, that honestly shredded. Alright, with all the pre-hard mode ones out of the way, I'm going to get into the hard mode ones. I don't exactly know what order it's going to be in, but it should be interesting regardless. Okay, next up we have the Queen Spider Staff. This is a sentry, which is kind of hard to gauge, but I'm going to fight the King Slime anyways, just to see what it does. I have never crafted this summon, I don't think, so... Oh god, I've still got the imps active, sorry. Okay, so it shoots these small eggs which go across the ground. And it seems to split on impact because it does 2 lots of damage when it connects. That's quite nice. It's not all that powerful, but... I mean, it would be nice because sentries don't cost a summon slot, so you can just summon this along with whatever else you're doing. Overall, not a bad item, honestly. Okay guys, I had to change location slightly because you can't desummon sentries, unfortunately. You just have to wait until they despawn. But next up we have the Spider Staff. Now I'm very familiar with this weapon. It was an amazing help in one of my original Let's Plays of the game, when I decided to do Summoner even before it was good. It does 69 summon damage with this loadout, which is just incredible. And let's just see how it does against lovely old King Slime. They have the ability to lock onto their, or like latch onto their enemies, and just stick until it dies basically. It's crazy. As well as that, they're just incredibly effective for most, like, relatively slow moving enemies. But the issue is, if you're fighting something fast enough, if the boss has the ability to dash, for example, then the spiders will come off. But apart from that, it's honestly an incredible summon I'd recommend for any early hard mode player. Okay, next up we have a summon I'm very excited to test, the Blade Staff. This thing took so long to farm out for, and I'm very excited to see, because I believe I've only ever used this thing once and I had a non-optimized loadout. It summons these small little knives above you. They only do 15 damage, but they ignore defense of enemies. So it's most likely going to do all 15 damage points on the enemies. And just look at that. This is without any modification, any like Ichor, any whip help, and it just shreds. Like, not even just on single target. Look how they're doing on the regular slimes. I've got God mode on for this showcase, so I'm just gonna sit here and let the blades do the work. But this would be incredible for AFK farming, bosses, events. Honestly, this weapon just covers everything you could ever want. And despite the rarity, I'd still recommend trying to get it if you're going for a Master Mode Summoner. Alright everyone, next up we have the Pirate Staff. I don't know what this summon is, I don't think I've ever gotten it. But it seems to summon these little dudes which use melee attacks by their appearance. It does a lot of damage, at least 106 with this optimized loadout. And in terms of their own strength, let's see. Okay, they've got weird hitboxes, but they do a ton of damage to certain enemies. I was seeing 1500 DPS there. And because they're melee, you can literally just run through hordes of enemies. And they'll just do their best to decimate everything. This summon is exceptionally rare from the Pirate Invasion, which isn't even an event which a lot of people do in their playthroughs. But if you can get hold of this, I definitely recommend keeping hold of it. Next up is the Sanguine Staff. I haven't seen this thing before, because I managed to get it and saved it for this video. But I believe it summons these weird, like, phantom bat things, which surround you. And they charge at enemies when... Oh, they're spawned? Let's see. Oh my god. This summon looks incredible and all the damage. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to show that again. Okay, so the bat's like home on for a guaranteed hit on the enemy by the looks of things. Yes, yeah, that is incredibly effective. We're looking at about 1500 DPS for what is a Blood Moon summon in hard mode. This drops from the Dread Nautilus, I believe. If I remember correctly, it was a long time ago whilst I was farming out for these, but I'd heavily recommend trying to get these weapons. This weapon in particular, if you can be lucky enough to have a Blood Moon. Okay, everyone, next up we have the Optic Staff. This is a very unique summon in the fact that you have two different summons within the one summon, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Regardless, they have their own unique properties. Some shoot lasers and the others charge into the enemies, and together they do a lot of damage. Perhaps they're not as meta as some of the new summons 1.4 has to offer, as they do kind of get outshined by, say, the Sanguine Staff, even the Pirate Staff in some scenarios, and the Blade Staff tenfold. But if you manage to get yourself a very elusive Black Lens, I'd still definitely craft this if you're a struggling summoner. Okay guys, next up we have the Pygmy Staff. I've already covered this weapon in my Terraria review, but I didn't really show the full potential of the weapon because I used a non-optimized loadout. It summons these small dudes which throw spears, and they do a ton of damage when used right. I wasn't using them correctly, and right now you're seeing about 1000 to 1500 DPS. They do a little bit less when they can't hit their shots because the spears they throw have a trajectory. But when they are connecting, it does an insane amount of damage. It's just unfortunate they can't pierce. But as I said last time, it's not really a stellar drop from Terraria, but it's one you'd be very happy with regardless. Because having the extra DPS from the Pygmy from any class is always nice. The next summon I have to review is the Deadly Sphere Staff. I never get this thing. It's a rare drop from the Solar Eclipse, dropped post Terraria, I believe, from the Deadly Sphere enemies. They do a lot of damage, but this weapon is quite good in return, despite the mediocre AI. For example, they can get caught on blocks if you have a very difficult to traverse landscape. When they do connect though, they do a lot of damage. Because they're a melee summon, they have infinite pierce, and the AI can be good. Just try not to get them caught on anything. Otherwise, you'll just lose the ability to use that summon for a while. Alright, next up we have the Staff of the Frost Hydra. This is another sentry, but this is quite an old sentry, honestly. I believe this has been here since Terraria was added originally. It does 265 summon damage and shoots these ice bolts out, so it's very powerful. We'll see here how it does. So it shoots these ice bolts, nothing too special in that regard, and it doesn't pierce. But considering it doesn't take up a summon slot when paired with something else, this would be incredibly strong. It's not really optimized for this fight though, because all the mini slimes that get summoned. But when you remove those, then it just does a lot of damage. Overall, it's not really worth the grind of the Frozen Key in my opinion. But I wouldn't be upset if I got one regardless, because the summon is incredibly nice to have. Okay, next up we have two summons which come post Terraria. We've got the Desert Tiger Staff for a start. This is a 1.4 exclusive item, which is incredible. I've never had the chance to use this before, but it seems to only summon one entity, which gets more powerful the more times you use it. I have no idea what the properties of this little dude are, but we'll see now. So, ooh, he like spin dashes and then, oh my lord. Okay, so he absolutely decimates. Okay, the Desert Key might actually be worth getting because that was incredible. Let's see that again. Yeah, this is a brilliant summon. I know it's grounded, which is normally a major downfall, and I know I had the Frost Hydra active still because you can't get rid of sentries. But this is honestly an incredible summon I definitely recommend getting, no matter the farm. Next up we have the Raven Staff. This is an item dropped from Pumpkins in the Pumpkin Moon event. And I never really get this because it's so rare and I never bother doing the events. It does 146 damage with the optimized loadout. And let's just see what it does. Okay, so they're another entity that just charge into the boss. They do a ton of damage, but they may not do that much when non-optimized. Regardless, Infinite Pierce, they're a very simplistic summon as all of the ones we've seen thus far. But another nice one. I wouldn't necessarily farm for this one as it's nothing unique, and you could have achieved very similar items with not much of a difference. Next up we have the Xenostaff. This is a summon from the Martian Madness event. I normally never get this thing for some reason, but when I do get it, it's incredible because these guys have the ability to never miss their shots. They're instantaneous, no trajectory, it just instantly hits the enemy intended. For example, you'll see here. The bullet instantly travels and it just shreds through enemies. It doesn't pierce or anything, but even without the pierce, you're looking at about 2500 DPS with this kind of amazing loadout. And it's not technically endgame, but I'm pretty sure with this summon you could get very, very close to it. The Tempest Staff is a summon weapon dropped from Duke Fishram. It's another one that I don't get all that much, or just never use it because at the time it's normally obsoleted by other classes. But it shoots its own projectiles, which are incredibly powerful, and it's very rapid fire. So I'm gonna show you what it does. There you go. It shoots these Sharknadoes out, and it fires from any point on the screen, which is amazing. They also pierce and just do a ton of damage. It's a very nice weapon. It's not as great as it may seem because at the time you have items like the Tsunami and the Flare unavailable from this boss. But it's still a nice item to get if you're wanting to go for a summoner loadout. Okay everyone, we're on to the post-lunar event items now. Starting off we have the two Stardust weapons. The Stardust Cell Star is the first one. It summons these small cells which shoot these spores out, which cling onto enemies and do damage over time. I'm pretty sure this will instantly kill the King Slime. Not instantly, but you'll see there is a small damage over time effect to anything they attach themselves to. And it does a ton of damage. Like, even without the projectiles doing no damage over time, it does 159, or at least the base damage of this item, every single time they land a shot. So, although it is still outshined by this weapon, it's still a solid option in some circumstances. With that said, let's move on to the Stardust Dragon. This is an infamously good summon, in all honesty. Most people craft this thing no matter what class they're in, and until 1.4 it was the ultimate summon. Because after the Moonlord you only have sentries. But it's just incredible. You'll see it just shred here. Absolutely obliterates everything. Infinite Pierce, 9000 DPS. There's just nothing that can even come close, in all honesty. It's just an incredible summon. And to be honest, there's still a debate whether the Terra Prisma compares to this, because it just absolutely destroys everything. Only issue is it's not always optimized for every battle. For example, though it's good in the Moonlord, it could be better, and the AI kind of makes it screw up occasionally. But for many people, it's still the best summon in all of Terraria. Next up, we have the two sentries from the Moonlord. First of all, we have the Lunar Portal Staff. I never use this thing all that much, but it shoots this small vortex portal, and it shoots these beams which are infinitely piercing. They don't do a ton of damage, but they are quite effective at the same time. And it's seen as quite underwhelming because the Stardust Dragon Staff is so much stronger, as well as other items which I'm yet to cover. But it's just a little bit lackluster, in all honesty. Like, considering this is a post-Moonlord item and it's struggling against basic enemies like this. Whereas something like the Xenostaff, which you can get way before that, just easily destroyed. With that said, I'm also going to cover the Rainbow Crystal Staff in this segment because the weapons are quite similar. This one's slightly better in my opinion. And you'll see what I mean here. It shoots these decent beams out. They don't always land, but they do a lot more damage and it's a lot more rapid fire. As well as that, it's individually targeted, so it works better against single target and groups of enemies than the Lunar Portal. Still though, it is a sentry, which is an undeveloped class in this game, so it is kind of hard to use, but it's definitely the best sentry in the game in my opinion. I'd have to say, at least. Alright everybody, the last summon I have to cover for today is the Terra Prisma. This is considered the ultimate summon of 1.4 by many. It's dropped from the Daytime Empress of Light, and instead of fighting the King Slime, I figure we need a slightly stronger enemy to test it out on. So why not try Master Mode Moonlord with no defense and no healing potions? Because I'm smart. You'll just see how good the weapon is. It absolutely just shreds through the eyeballs. Just demolishes the boss. And, well, yeah, what more can I say? It just does so much damage. The AI is incredible for this weapon as well. Like, I swear, it feels like it never misses, which is dumb to say for a summon, but it's just so perfect and it functions for almost every situation in the game. Just almost every. I know I'm not in God mode, but I just want to showcase the kind of damage you're looking at. Like, I didn't even realise, but both of the hands are gone using this weapon. It's just that powerful. And if you focus it, then you're looking at a 5,000 DPS for a summon, which is unheard of before 1.4. There is still the debate whether Stardust Dragon is better, but personally for me, I'd have to say I'm with the Terra Prisma for the best summon in 1.4. Just because it's more versatile, and just more fun to use in it, honestly. With that said, that's going to wrap up for this video, guys. I know it's been a bit of a weird one, and it may not come out how I wanted to. But since I'm live streaming tonight, I just wanted to get something of content out for other people in the meantime. Until the live stream though, I just want to say thank you guys, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.